have such a juicy episode for you guys. If you are struggling with falling pregnant, with period issues, with wanting to understand what else could be going on that's contributing to the reoccurring physical problem that you're having with your cycle, with hormones, with fertility, whatever it is, you need to get out a pen and paper and get so tucked into today's episode. I'm very excited. Oh, ma'am, it's okay. Sorry, ma'am just decided to start barking at people walking on the street, just innocent civilians. She was like, this is my land. Get off. Okay, so the energetic reasons for your period issues. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about PMS, endometriosis, PCOS, PMDD, really any of those kind of very common period issues that people are coming up against these days. And then we are going to go into the energetic issues of quote unquote infertility. And I'm saying that quote unquote because maybe you're listening to this episode and you've been told that you have unexplained infertility. Maybe your doctor has basically said you're infertile and you want to know what else you could be doing, and you want to step back into your power rather than just taking that label and thinking this is the end for you. So if you don't want to listen to the first bit, you can just jump to the second bit of the episode and listen to the second bit. However, before you do that, if you're only wanting the pregnancy bit, if you have had period issues in the past, maybe you don't have them now for whatever reason, whether it's because that you're doing IUI or whatever it is that you're doing. So now it's like, you don't have, it's not your real cycle, if that makes sense, because you've got a bunch of hormones in you. It is still really helpful to listen to the period section because there could be something in there that rings true and you'll feel that in your body. You'll get that visceral response that could give you a lot of insight into possibly why you're struggling to conceive. Now, for the men listening to this episode, I am going to talk to you a tiny bit in an example that I've written down on like sperm quality stuff, but this is an episode for women. If you're listening and you're a man and you would like to learn more about what could be causing the woman in your life to struggle, this would be an epic episode because, of course, you can be supporting her through this and giving her so much safety and support and providing for her and protecting her and really helping her to heal her relationship with the masculine, because there's a lot of that I'm going to be talking about today. But other than that, this is really an episode for the ladies. All right, let's jump into the energetic reasons for your period issues. Now, the first thing that I want to say before I even get into this, just to give a little bit of context, is this is not to say that if you only focus on the energetic things and you still eat sugar and drink a pile and don't sleep enough, that your periods is all of a sudden going to be miraculously amazing. No, you need to really have a holistic approach with everything in your life. So you want to be ensuring that you are limiting your sugar intake, that you are having an anti-inflammatory diet, that you are making sure that you're getting an optimal amount of sleep every night, that you're drinking enough water, etc. And these things are going to help you as well, especially if you have done all of the, what I just referenced them as, the physical things. So when I say, and some of you, I've said this to you in emails before of like, what physical things have you done? And when I'm saying physical things, I'm talking about the physical body, right? Instead of the energetic body or the emotional body. So I'm looking at things like, have you cut out sugar? Have you cut out gluten? Have you cut out dairy? Because those things obviously have a massive impact on your hormones as well. And let's not underemphasize the fact that your past trauma, the unconscious stress, those things can also have a very, very real impact on your body. And therefore, it doesn't matter how much turmeric you're having. If you are in this constant fight or flight that you might be unaware of because you're disassociated, so you've just normalized it, so to you it just feels normal, that constant fight or flight is still pumping out so much inflammation in your body. So the turmeric it's not really cutting it. You want to make sure that you're doing everything. It feels really empowering to know when you've actually done everything. So when you've done when I'm saying you've done everything, you've done the physical things, you've done the emotional things, you've done the energetic things, you've done the mindset things, then it's like, okay, you've done everything. Now what is truly next? Versus for a lot of us, we go into the doctor's office and we feel like they're going to give us this answer to our prayers. They're going to give us all the information that we need. And I'm going to talk about this more at the end of the episode, but they're not giving you all the information that you need. And it's not to say that doctors are wrong or evil, or I'm not saying that at all. They're genuinely wanting to help you. Otherwise, why would you go through all that training, right? So they are trying to help you, but the way that they've been taught to help you is a Band-Aid approach, which I'm going to talk about the benefit of that at the end of the episode. So if you are on the pill, or if you feel like your only hope is the IUD or the pill or IVF or IUI, then I do want you to listen to the end, because I'm not actually saying that those are necessarily bad things. I'm saying that you need to do it in a way that actually allows you to feel power in your own body, and you're then actually using the beautiful benefits of modern medicine rather than just relying on it and kind of being a victim to it, if that makes sense. So, anyway, here are some reasons for your period issues. So, the first one, I feel like is probably the most obvious one that maybe you're already aware of, is having a lack of feminine energy present in your body. So if you are in your hypermasculine, if you feel very disconnected to your feminine, if you have, any kind of trauma or fear around softening and surrendering and stepping more into your feminine, there's not only going to necessarily be a lack of feminine energy, but there's also going to be some fear around fully embracing your feminine energy. So if you have a history of sexual trauma, that also can very heavily affect period issues. And it's also obviously going to affect your safety in stepping into your feminine, and not even stepping into your feminine, is relaxing into your feminine. Any kind of sexual trauma that's in your past or your present, that can definitely be affecting your period, whether it's, causing the endo, the PMS, the PMDD, all those sorts of things. I've said this in another episode. I've done a whole other episode on like endometriosis and PCOS and talking about the energetic things and the physical things for it. Endometriosis is to do with your immune system, right? So if you have a really weak immune system, if your body is like fighting against itself, if you do not feel safe and trusting in your body, if you don't feel trusting in your feminine energy, it can cause that suppression of the immune system. A lot of the times when we go and try and get help about endometriosis, people will say gut health, people will say inflammation, people will say, like when we're talking about like obviously having a holistic approach, or people will say you have to take the pill, there's no option, you have to get the surgery over and over again. Remember that everything is interconnected in your body. So yes, you want to be working on your gut health, of course, but you also want to be working on your immune system. And what affects your immune system, everybody? Your stress levels. So if you're not also working on your stress and your sleep and your unconscious stress and your trauma and your safety in your body, it doesn't matter how many probiotics you're taking. That stress can be throwing out your gut microbiome, causing this cascade of effects, and obviously the endometriosis as well. Now, the surgery for endometriosis, for example, I'm not saying you shouldn't go and get surgery necessarily, but what I'm saying is what happens after you get the surgery? If the endometriosis keeps coming back, the endometrial lesions, if they keep coming back, that's telling me that your body is not set up in a way to stop the endometriosis from coming back. So in the past, when I've had clients that come to me before they go and have their next operation, we work on ensuring that that is their last operation. And it becomes their last operation because their body is actually out of this fight or flight response. For example, their immune system's now functioning properly, their gut health is good, their inflammation is low, and therefore the endometrial lesions don't grow back. Now, of course, I say this all the time, but I'm going to say this again. This is not a one size fits all. And that's why I don't, when you guys DM me, I don't just give you generic hormonal advice, because unless everyone's going to benefit from the generic hormonal advice, for example, lower inflammation, everyone benefits from that. You and your body and your history and your case is so unique. What's affecting your life, what's in your life, like there's so many different factors to be looking at when you are looking at how to improve your hormones. You've got to make sure that you add context to this. So the stress might not be just past trauma. It could be the fact that you're feeling unsupported in being a new mother. That could be the stress, right? So the context of the context is important. Looking at what's happening around you, as well as what's happening, what happened in the past, and even what you're worried about in the future, are all helpful things to be looking at when you are trying to determine those unconscious stresses in your body. So, where was I? History of sexual trauma is a really, really big one for any kind of period issues, including a missing period. A missing period, the period is the energetic issue that I mentioned before of not feeling connected to your feminine energy, a lack of safety in your feminine energy, big one. big one for missing periods. Another one that I kind of mentioned before just then was worrying about things a lot. If you're always in this constant worry, that can be affecting your period issues, or just your period coming regularly, or you having a period. Not feeling safe in your body is obviously one that I've mentioned before. A lack of self-trust. A lot of people lack self-trust. They just don't trust themselves. They don't trust their body. They don't trust their own thoughts. They don't trust their intuition. They don't trust their needs, their wants, their desires. When you can cultivate self-trust, that is where so much confidence also breeds from. So what creates confidence is not just healing your trauma. That's a really big component of it. If you have done healing work, but you're still not feeling confident, let's say, other things that are going to contribute your self-confidence is your self-discipline. Do you actually do the things that you say that you're going to do? Do you show up for yourself in a way that says, I deserve this? Do you follow through on your own word? Do you believe yourself? Do you have your own back? All of those things breed self-trust, and they breed really, really deep self-confidence. So self-trust, deep self-confidence, and just feeling like I've got myself is a really big one as well. The next one is unprocessed emotions. So, obviously, any kind of unprocessed emotional turmoil, feelings of unsafety, past trauma, whether they're micro traumas, like mini traumas, or whether they're macro traumas. Let's all remember that the little things add up to be the big things. We know that in terms of like romanticizing our lives. You can also apply that, unfortunately, to trauma. Micro things that are happening consistently over a period of time can lead to a macro feeling, right? So you constantly feeling like you're not enough can lead to a really big fucking wound of you not feeling enough. And that can be a big blocked emotion that's in your body that's causing you to not be able to fall pregnant or to have any kind of period issues. Another one that often gets forgotten about is the history of how you grew up with being looked after. So if you often only got attention and were really only loved and looked after and cared for when you were sick, that can cause you to feel like, oh, I have to have a painful period in order to get attention, in order to get love, in order to be looked after. I've had that in a lot of clients before. So that's a really big one. And then additionally, obviously, if you grew up in a household where you were always told your periods are painful, it sucks being a woman. If your mom grew up with really bad PMS and she's kind of then imprinted that mentally, emotionally, physically onto you, you can still be attached to kind of your mom's narrative and playing out your mother's narrative or your grandmother's narrative or the school teacher that you were really close to that kind of traumatized you about your period. You can still be playing out those people's narratives because at that time when you were younger, you took that on as this is the truth. So that truth, which isn't true, but it's a truth, right? That truth has then been imprinted into your body. Whenever I say imprinted, I always feel like I always think of Twilight. You know how they were like imprint, like the walls were imprinting on each other? I always think of Twilight. So random. So anyway, that belief has then been imprinted into you, like the wolves in Twilight. And now you have taken that belief and made that your own. And we know that you literally have the power to tell your body what it's experiencing. So that belief then that truth then becomes your reality of a really painful period, for example. So we have to disconnect you from that truth, from that person, from your mom, whatever. And it's not disconnecting you from the person, it's disconnecting you from the truth so that you can then actually form your own set of beliefs and truths and feel like you are your own entity rather than you are just mimicking them. And that also creates self-power and self-confidence, right? Because you then feel like you're your own person rather than attached at the hip to somebody and kind of influenced by them all the time, right? On this note, a feeling of unworthiness is going to cause period issues. Finding, or you constantly finding hardship in feelings and processing your emotions. So if you find it very hard to feel, you're very disassociated, you're very disconnected from your body's emotions, that can be causing period issues. And it definitely can obviously be causing issues around falling pregnant, shame around sex, shame around being a woman, shame around femininity, all of those sorts of things, fears around being seen in your sensuality, being seen as a really feminine, sensual, beautiful, magnetic, radiant woman, right? When we go through our bleed, like that is a time where we are really seeing ourselves. We have to look after ourselves. We have to take an extra second on the toilet to get our things together. We are literally feeling and seeing the deepest part of our feminine energy. And especially if you're in a relationship or if you desire to be in a relationship, if there's a lack of safety around your deep feminine energy being felt and expressed and seen by him or her, that can then cause you to feel like you have to hide yourself. You have to hide this feminine, authentic, most expressed part of yourself, which is your period, causing that shame to then creep in. And that shame is a very heavy emotion, a very heavy feeling, heavy energy. And then that shame harbors itself in your womb, and we then have the painful periods. Shame, I've noticed, is a really big one for painful periods and also missing periods. Painful periods and missing periods, I've noticed that shame is a really big one around that. If you have any kind of history of burnout and you haven't really addressed it, like really addressed it, that could definitely be playing a factor in it, because you may have normalized your feelings of exhaustion or your feelings of like ups and downs, highs and lows. And so you're oblivious to the hormonal complications that it's caused, because you're like, I feel fine. So like everything's fine. Just because you feel fine doesn't mean everything is fine. And the reason why I say that is not because you shouldn't trust yourself. It's because for a lot of us, we normalize how we feel. It's human nature. We have to do it. It's a survival response. What happens is our brain just becomes used to our environment. Some of you maybe have grown up in a house where there was like an old clock that would ring, like ding, at midnight or at 3 a.m. and you would stop hearing it. And then you would have a guest in your house and they would be like, oh my God, what the fuck is that noise? You've stopped hearing it because your brain has seen that it's irrelevant information. It doesn't have to focus on it anymore, right? So because it doesn't have to focus on it anymore, it's normalized that you literally don't hear it. So when you have felt a certain way for a long period of time, you've just gotten used to it, right? You've had to. So because you've gotten used to it, it's not relevant anymore. You're not actually aware of those feelings. You're not providing any attention to them. You're not like validating them. So therefore you think you feel fine because you do feel fine. But I want you to feel amazing. I want you to feel free. I want you to feel electric. I want you to feel magnetic. I want you to feel open. That's what I want you to feel. I'm just quickly interrupting myself to talk about the program that every woman needs to do. If you want to understand your cycle so well that you can literally be your own doctor, then your perfect period is something that is an essential tool that you need in your toolkit. If you are sick of the PMS, the bloating, the boobs that are so sore you can barely walk, the back pain, the mood swings, the heavy periods, the delayed ovulation, the irregular cycles, the painful periods, the acne, whatever it is, then this program is not only just going to clear those things up, it's also going to teach you what to do in the future if they ever come up again, which for me is priceless because life happens, right? And it's so beautiful that I know my cycle so well that if I get a little bit of a random symptom come up one month, I'm like, that's interesting. Let me reflect on what's been happening. Okay, yep, all right, I know what to do now to clear this up. And that is power. So you feel connected to your body. It does not make you feel disconnected from your body like so many of us feel when we're having these horrendous periods and these bad luteal phases where we feel like our body is broken. We feel like our body is betraying us. It feels very, very frustrated. It feels like we're in our own fucking jail cell. And you get to take the power back and actually bring all that wisdom that is there, that women used to know, that we used to harness, and not only embody that for yourself, right? You're not only healing yourself, you're also educating yourself. And that wisdom and that education, not only are you going to benefit from, but also your daughter, your nieces, your friends, your granddaughters. And I just think, what a beautiful way to nourish the female lineage. What a beautiful thing to do as a woman today that you're not only helping yourself when you join your perfect period, you're also helping the future women that are coming into your life, whether you have a daughter or whether you will have a daughter, or whether your friends will have daughters, nieces, whether they'll be just friends that you can help out when they're going through rough times with their period. Even when you're a grandmother, you can now help your granddaughter. And isn't that just a beautiful way to really harness that powerful feminine energy within us? So if you would like to join your perfect period, the link is below so you can read about it, join, and become another one of my beautiful clients that have changed their cycles forever and are forever grateful. All right, let's jump back into the show. Other ones are always being in your head. Often when you're really in your head, I mean, not often, when you're really in your head, you're taking all that energy away from your body. And so because it's away from your body and now going to your head, all that blood flow and all that energy is away from your reproductive system, and the overthinking, the overanalyzing, that masculine energy. So our masculine lies in our head, our feminine lies in our body. So when you're always in your head, it's pretty safe to say that you're probably always in your masculine, right? And so that doing outwards energy can block the energetic flow that's needed for your period, and therefore for a healthy period, right? So when we are bleeding every month, we are like letting go, we are shedding. That's why when you have painful periods, I recommend that you try and really go into the pain, and if you can, feel what it is that you're releasing emotionally. Like, what's coming up for you? What are you frustrated about? What are you angry about? What are you feeling betrayed of? What are you scared of? Because in that pain, there's also answers and guidance. So when you're in your head, and you're taking all that energy away from you, it can then also inhibit you from even feeling that release. And so it's like you have the physical release, but you still don't have the energetic release. So because you don't have the energetic release of your period every month, all that energy is staying bottled up in your womb space and your cervix. And as a result, every month you still feel the pain, you still the PMDD, because that energy is still harboring itself there because you haven't actually been able to shed it and release it. Another one is disassociation from your pussy. Any kind of disassociation from your sexual energy, from your reproductive organs, from your womb, from your vagina, from your labia. When you are disconnected from this powerhouse in your body, that can create shame. It can breed shame. That disconnection can purely just make you feel unaware of what's going on in your body. So you can't feel what it needs. You don't feel that it needs to slow down in your luteal phase. And because you don't feel that feeling of I want to slow down in my luteal phase, what I've spoken about before in an episode is then it catches up with you. So now, because you haven't slowed down in your luteal phase, you're feeling the pain of that physically in your during your period when you're bleeding. So when you have all that disconnection, the disconnection causes you to not be able to listen. And then it also creates the lack of self-trust, and it can create more disassociation because then you hate your body because you're frustrated with it because it's painful to you. So it makes you move yourself energetically further away from your body, kind of just creating more disassociation, which is why the sooner that you can do this work to connect back to your body, the better. The sooner that you can start this, the sooner that you can start reconnecting and feeling yourself and healing, the better, because you aren't creating a bigger snowball, because it's a very real snowball effect where the problem can just start to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you stop and unravel. And once you start to unravel, it unravels very quickly like a snowball, right? But it also builds up very quickly like a snowball. So the sooner that you can start to do this, the better. And the beautiful thing is, in the way that I do this work, is I very much focus it on being a domino effect. So what that means is that you don't then need to focus on every tiny minute thing. We really focus on those root things, the root of the iceberg. And then as a result, the cascade effect, that domino effect, means fixing the root like knocks out so much stuff above it, basically, if that makes sense. Let's go into the energetic reasons of struggling to fall pregnant. I am very excited to talk to you guys about this one because I mean, I love every facet of the work that I do. If someone had to say, if you could only, and I've been asked this for my book, if you could only focus on one niche, what would it be? And my response is, I can't give that answer because I'm never only focusing on one niche, because I love every component of what I do in my business and how I help people way too much that I honestly, truly, from the depths of my heart, feel that if somebody like took away a section, I would feel incomplete. I really would, because I just like every different area, every different focus and topic that I help people on, it's just too good to me. It's just too good to be taken away. Anyway, obviously, it goes without saying that being able to help somebody bring life into the world and fall pregnant after struggling is, of course, the biggest joy. When I get that Telegram message, when I get that email of I'm pregnant, like, oh my God, I start crying right now. The goosebumps, the tears sometimes, especially when it's been years of struggling to fall pregnant and they fall pregnant. It's just like, it really does feel like a miracle, and it's the biggest joy that I am able to experience in my work. So I wanted to say that firstly, of I do not take it lightly being able to help a woman bring life into this world. And what we're going to go into in just a moment, like I was sharing with you guys with the period stuff, is that I'm not talking about the physical things to be doing for helping you to fall pregnant. I'm talking about the very real energetic components of this. Now, let me firstly just kind of paint the picture so you understand a little bit on why there would be such a big energetic component. I feel like when I explain the energetic impact that things have on pregnancy, it then, like, it's so clear that it helps everything else to be clear in terms of energetic reason. Okay, so think about it like this. Your body literally is the home for this growing child, right? It grows out of essentially not nothing, but essentially nothing, right? It literally comes from tiny cells in DNA, right? So you've got an egg, you've got a sperm, and inside of the egg and the sperm is every little tiny piece of information to grow you and I, like fucking wild, like to grow toenail, like crazy. Anyway, so you have every little piece of information, but a really key component is that this baby has to feel safe, and your body has to feel safe in actually growing this, and not just growing it for 9 months, then growing it for the following X amount of years through childhood, teenagehood, adulthood, through them having their own children if they have children. So you don't just stop after 9 months, right? This is a choice that affects the rest of your life in a very, very beautiful, positive way. And I'm going to talk about many different facets of this that I'm seeing as the negative impact these days that I do believe is having a very real effect on women being able to fall pregnant, because I see this in my clients. So I see these problems very often come up in the women that have come to me to want to fall pregnant. Um, but nonetheless, so your womb, if your womb does not feel and your body does not feel fully capable of doing this task, it's not going to do the task, right? So even something like, so progesterone is the hormone that keeps the baby in, right? So when you are going through your cycle, when progesterone and estrogen drop, you get your period, right? So when your progesterone drops too quickly, you get your period early. Now, what drops? And so when progesterone drops, you can have a miscarriage or you start to give birth. The thing to understand is that progesterone will drop under heavy amounts of stress, right? Or just like stress in general. A lot of women don't have enough progesterone these days because they're chronically stressed. So you have that as a physical issue in regards to actually not only falling pregnant, but also being able to hold the pregnancy. It's a really important one. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because I could go on that forever. But anyway, so when you have this unconscious stress in your body, all these fears of the future, of what if, of can I do this, of la la la, of a lack of safety in your body, do you think that this, basically we're just going to like umbrella this word of unsafety? Do you think that this feeling of unsafety and this energy of unsafety is going to be an environment where you will fall pregnant, where you will allow that chemical concoction to happen? And will the baby feel safe to actually grow in this environment? No, like so simple, like absolutely not. And when we think about it, it's like pregnancy is a miracle, right? It really is a true miracle. I truly believe that with pregnancy, there is conception, there is so much more that goes on than we even know about, like more than the science of it. And so because this is a true miracle, Of course, there is a huge energetic role at play. And I'm sure some of you have heard stories of friends where they miraculously fell pregnant when like she wasn't even ovulating and like it's so random. And I love those kinds of stories because obviously when they want the baby, because it just proves when a baby needs to come through, a baby is coming through. Anyway, my point is that when you as a mother or a mother to be can understand that your body is the home for your child. Like, oh my God, I want to cry. This is so beautiful. When your body is the home for your child, not only for the 9 months, but your body, your hug, your kisses, your words. Literally, I'm like fully tearing up right now. It is the home for this child for its whole life, right? There is nothing like what is happening. There is nothing like a if you're watching the video, you understand a a bond with sorry, a child's bond with their mother. So if you're wanting to fall pregnant, if you're wanting to have a beautiful pregnancy, if you're wanting to do everything that you can for yourself and also for the baby, the energetic component is obviously a very real one. Okay, let's dive in before I'm like literally hysterically crying as I just like dream about babies. All right, so the first one that I see very often is fears around motherhood, which I'm going to talk about a bit more in a little bit. So hang tight. So, fears about motherhood, what you'll lose, whether you'll be like your mother, and obviously you don't want to be like your mother, feelings of lack of support, all those sorts of things. Any kind of a deep sense of like insecurity or unsafety in your body. Obviously, I've mentioned that like 300 times today. That is going to cause there to be an inability to fall pregnant, possibly. A fear of birth. Fear of birth can cause just another. It's one of those like it's another form of a future fear. So women can have a future fear of like, how will I juggle work and motherhood? How will I do this? I'm not going to feel supported. I don't want to be like my mom. It's like these future fears that we have can inhibit the manifestation that we want now, right? So a fear of birth, a fear of motherhood, a fear of exhaustion, a fear of your relationship, ending because of the stress of being a parent, a fear of this stress of being a parent. Like you're having all these preconceived notions and fears and concerns and what ifs that you don't actually know whether they're real or not, because just because you've seen it on Instagram or just because, your friends are having a hard time doesn't mean that you're having a hard time. And being able to realize that you create your own narrative with motherhood is game changing. And I know that I'm obviously not a mother, but what I can say is that I have worked with a lot of mothers and a lot of mothers that are expecting and a lot of women that want to fall pregnant and have been struggling. And then they've come to me and they do fall pregnant. And what I can say is that projected future thinking, those future fears are so real, especially in regards to seeing other people through their motherhood journey and compare and like not comparing, but thinking, oh my God, that looks so hard. Oh my God, she's struggling. She always looks tired. She looks so haggard. She's like aged 50 years in a year. And then thinking that's going to be me. Why would that be you? You're listening to this podcast. You're doing work on yourself. You have the awareness that you get to create your own narrative. So, guess what? You create your own narrative around motherhood. And if you have a positive narrative around motherhood, obviously that's going to lead to vastly different results than you having either no narrative about motherhood and just like taking it day by day and having uh no positive place that you're moving towards, or obviously having a negative idea of motherhood. So any kind of future fears around motherhood, birth, even like I've had people that are afraid of like, well, I don't want to be a mother of a teenager. I'm like, whoa, like what is happening? And often this all comes purely from a lack of education, right? We're making these fears not from an educated place. We're making them from a very uneducated place. When we're creating these fears and allowing these fears to be truths because of something that we've seen on social media from a fucking reel, or because your best friend's been having a hard week, right? And she's vented all the negatives to you. So I'm going to talk about that more in the next one. On the topic of social media is great for showing us the real sides of motherhood. And I worry about how many accounts that bitch on motherhood these days are making women not want to be mums and making dads not want to be dads. Sure, parenting is hard. Not going to deny that, right? Duh. But what a lot of these accounts fail to reinforce, and maybe they said it once, but once isn't enough reinforcement, is that the pain is always worth it. You just see them sharing the bad things, which isn't bad to talk about. I'm not saying that it's bad that we can now have the authentic look into motherhood. I think it's so amazing that we are able to be real online, right? We love the authenticity. But what we have to be aware of, and what I want you to be, what I want you to be, my God, I can't speak. What I want you to be aware of is that when you're scrolling through social media, you're not really consciously filtering positive, negative. You're just taking it in. You're just taking it in. So when you are scrolling through your feed or through the stories and you're seeing these negative things about all these bitching, all these venting, or whatever it is, things about motherhood and how hard it is to be a mother and how it's so exhausting and men don't support and blah, blah, blah. Even though you in a conversation to me might say, yeah, but like, I don't believe that. Like, I know I know they're just saying that. I know they're just, being authentic. I know they love being a mom. That's great that you can consciously tell me that, but I don't care what you consciously think. It's about what you unconsciously think. And if every day you're just seeing this negative thing about motherhood and you see that for 1 year, that's 365 times you've seen something negative about motherhood. Do you not think that is going to have some kind of impact on your body, on your mindset, and on your energy and your fears about motherhood? Right. So I'm not saying don't follow the, realistic accounts of motherhood, but maybe don't. I don't. I'll tell you right now, I do not, because I know that whilst they're doing great things and it's fantastic that people can be authentic and whatnot, I know that for me, that isn't going to do anything positive. I don't need to see the negatives. I don't need to see the real side of motherhood. I actually want to see maybe the fake side. Maybe it's only the positive side. Maybe it's the 1%, but I need to see that because that is what I need going into it. Once I'm in it, I'll figure it out. But if you're not yet a mother, can you see how that it's a different pool that you're in? If you're a mom already right now, it actually could be really fucking validating to you, and it could be very helpful and actually could be really positive for you to feel connected, like, oh my God, I'm not alone with these struggles. That's great. But if you're not yet in that pool of being a mother, you're not then connecting to it. So you're not getting that feeling of being seen in the real of like the shit sides of motherhood, let's say. What you're actually getting is, uh-oh, like, do I want to do this? You're now second guessing, right? And the thing is that you lack context because you lack the intensity of the love that a mother has between her child. So even when those moms are sitting there feeling validated and like, oh my God, preach, and they're actually getting a positive experience out of this reel, they're able to have a different experience because they're still choosing to be a mom, because they can feel that love with their child that you and I maybe haven't yet experienced before. So hopefully you're picking up what I'm putting down, but it's really, really important to just understand that there is a different energy that you might want to be in pre-motherhood versus in motherhood. You're having a different experience watching these videos. Hopefully we all get what I'm saying, right? And I don't want you to program fear through your body and associate being a mother with all these negative things. And even still, when you're a mom, every day you're choosing to create your own narrative of motherhood. So even when I'm a mother, I don't want to be just like, I don't want to just feel validated through Instagram, right? Because I'm going to validate myself. I want to see the possibilities. I want to be inspired to shift every day, to evolve every day, to grow, to expand. I don't want to just use social media as a way to feel validated. I actually allow my social media to be a way that I feel expanded. Okay. So hopefully we all understand that. It's very important. I've had a lot of conversations about this recently, and it's like one of those pros and cons. It's in this, like, it is a pro, like these accounts are pro and con at the same time. It's about having discernment. And a lot of people these days lack discernment, and maybe you lack discernment. So let's bring some discernment back in with the accounts that you're choosing to follow, especially if you're becoming a mother. So like on this note, positive birth accounts, not listening to the negative shit, not reading the negative shit, right? You're consuming information, and you're literally creating an environment that makes you so fucking excited to be a mum, because that excitement breeds safety. That excitement makes you feel like I can do this, which is important. Anyway, moving on. So, other energetic reasons for not being able to fall pregnant. You unconsciously don't feel ready. So, in these situations that I've seen mentally, um, it's like she wants to be pregnant, but there's also a part of her that doesn't feel ready to be a mother. I see this a lot with business owners. And it's not to say they're not ready to be a mum. It could be that they actually are, but there's stories in their body, there's feelings that they're experiencing that's telling them unconsciously they're not ready. They're thinking that they have to do X, Y, and Z in order to be ready, right? And every parent says, like, you're never fucking ready. So we all know that, but it's also very important to understand that there is a feeling in your body of like, I am ready to hold this and I'm not ready to hold this. And you don't, it's not necessarily that you have to like wait another year. It can actually be a few things in your life that needs to be tidied up. You're going to get that, like we can get that intel from your body. You go and do those things and then boom, pregnancy. And I'm telling you, this happened to a client recently, actually. There was things that needed to be tidied up in their life that we picked up on in a session from her body. So I gave her some instructions. She went and did the things that she needed to do. Literally, boom, the next week, or it was like 2 weeks later, she was pregnant. And it was almost like, wait, are we ready for this? And quite literally, it was tidying up those things that she was so unaware of, that by tidying them up energetically and physically, it allowed her to actually have the space to feel like, okay, I'm ready for this. And part of the feeling if I'm ready for this could actually just be around education. It actually could be around masculine structure. I'm launching, so right now, Queen Alchemy is open for enrollment, 13th round. We're going into the 6th year of me doing this, which is crazy. Um, but in a couple months in April, I think it's April, I'm also opening up her again, which I'm really excited for. For those of you that want to become a mum, this is going to be a really great program for you to join, either as well as Queen Alchemy, if you're going to do Queen Alchemy to heal your trauma. And you could always do her like next year if you wanted to. I fucking love this program because sometimes for women that are struggling to fall pregnant or that are struggling to be in their feminine, it's actually not that they need to do more feminine things. It's actually they need to implement structure. It's actually technically masculine things that have to come into their life to support their feminine. So in some situations with women wanting to fall pregnant, what we've actually had to do is technically masculine things that's allowed them to feel more safety around certain situations to then actually have the space to bring a baby into the world and to conceive, right? The next thing that I want to say is cold energy in your womb space. So, a lot of us don't have great circulation in our body, especially if we're sitting down all day. And if you have cold energy or quite literally coldness in your womb space, that's not going to be a warm, cozy space for a baby to thrive in there. If you don't have a strong connection to your womb or to your cycle or to your feminine energy, that can also cause that energetic coldness as well. In addition, suppression of pain that you may or may not be aware of. I said there's a lot in regards to the period issues. So if there is disassociation or numbing out in your body, and of course also like fight or flight, or there could be a combination of some disassociation and some fight and some flight, depending on the circumstances. Nonetheless, a suppression of pain or unawareness, like you are completely unawareness, lack of awareness, that was not English, lack of awareness around pain that you're holding on to in your body. Of course, that pain is going to be inhibiting and blocking energy flow to allow you to actually fall pregnant. It's also going to be possibly inhibiting that feeling of safety to be able to allow you to fall pregnant. And then the last two that I've written down for you guys is feeling not good enough or feeling a feeling of abandonment. I'm sure you can put two and two together if you're feeling abandoned. If you have a deep feeling of abandonment, what kind of energy is that bringing into your body? Is that going to allow a child to feel loved and safe and seen and held? No. You might also be afraid of abandoning the child. You might be afraid that you're going to abandon yourself. That feeling of abandonment could be causing inability to fall pregnant. And then the last one, which I think I already said maybe for the pregnancy, but we'll say it again if I already did, is the lack of self-trust, right? Lack of self-trust that you'll be fine through pregnancy, that you're going to be okay, that you're going to be okay through birth, that you're going to be able to raise a beautiful child, that you have your own back. That feeling of self-trust is so essential because that self-trust then also allows you to feel like no matter what happens, I'm going to get through it. So those fears of how am I going to deal with a teenager? Or like whatever future thinking fears that you have, you can very quickly just be like, I don't need to deal with this right now. And they don't feel so big because you trust yourself to be able to move through all of this. So let's remember this is all separate to hormonal issues that very much could be causing PMS, endo, PCOS, missing periods, infertility, miscarriages, etc. Remember that unless your doctor is the 1%, and hold the fuck onto them if they are, a doctor is not going to be telling you these tiny things. They are going, and they've been taught to slap a label on it, probably handing you quote unquote options that are really just medical band-aids. And this is not to shit on doctors, like I was saying before, by any means. This is just to ensure that you actually feel like you are making an informed and educated decision rather than just listening to the kind of the first thing that's been handed to you. If, for example, you have really bad endo, right? And the pill literally takes away the near death pain. I'm not saying shame on you for going on it. That's not what I'm saying. I am not anti modern medicine by any means. If you are not new to my podcast, you know this. If you're new, then this is important for you to know. I've had to use modern medicine a lot through my life. So I by no means am anti it. What I'm saying though is that you deserve to make an educated and informed decision for yourself. And doctors, unless they're the ones that we love, they don't give you all the options, all right? They just don't. So you might think that you are making an informed and educated decision, but you're actually not. And it's important to note, at least in the US, that Pfizer funds 70, I think it's 70%, it's about that, 70% of the curriculum for becoming a doctor, right? So if you look at the curriculum, if you ask your doctors, or maybe not your doctor will tell you, but if you have any doctor friends, the advice is not, let's find the emotional root cause. Maybe their inflammation levels are too high. Let's give them some turmeric. You know, it's always just a more medical approach, and that's not necessarily bad. So let me go into the moments or the scenarios and examples where I'm saying like use the modern medicine. So if you have, for example, really bad endo, like I was saying before, and you have horrendous pain where it's like you feel like you have to be on the pill because if not, you pass out or you're hospitalized for the pain. So I'm not saying you shouldn't be on the pill or you shouldn't have a hormonal IUD in you. That's not what I'm saying, right? An educated and informed decision can also be that you're going to go on the pill or IUD, for example, whilst you fix the root problem of your endo, your PMS, your PMDD, your PCOS, whatever it is. And then once you've fixed the root issue as best as you can, then you will go off it following a protocol that will ensure that you reduce the hormonal rebound as best as possible. Another example for pregnancy is that maybe you need to do IUI because of your partner's low sperm count or quality, for example. Firstly, I would want you, because this is about you feeling like you are in your power, I would want you to ensure that you have done everything possible to improve his sperm count and quality. So he's taking CoQ10, you're both eating chicken liver, he's massaging his testicles daily, he's not wearing any underwear, no more endocrine disruptors, less saunas, etc. And if after 5 months, sperm regenerates about every 64 days. So 5 months is like a really good chunk of time. And if you've gone like balls to the wall with the protocol, then you should be good. If after 5 months there hasn't been a change, then you feel confident knowing, okay, we've done everything we possibly can. IUI is a good option. All right. Thank you, modern medicine, for this opportunity. And if the IUI isn't working on you, then you don't need to just jump to IVF straight away. You might then start to look at your own energetic blocks and ensuring that you're actually allowing the IUI to work. What blocks do you have around pregnancy and motherhood? So this that I was just saying, this is an approach where you are staying in your power whilst using modern medicine to support you once you've really tried everything. So you're actually using both. And in these scenarios, it then doesn't feel like modern medicine is a band-aid. The modern medicine is actually supportive to you. And simultaneously, you are fixing the root issue. But most doctors, obviously there's some out there, most doctors, most generic doctors are not going to do it this way. So it's really, really important that you step into your power and your own ability to help heal yourself. So in my renowned program, Queen Alchemy, which I'm sure that you've already heard about, we will be running this for the sixth time this year. We're having one round that's about to start, and then we have another round that's happening earlier than usual this year. So I've been running it for the last 5 years, since the beginning of 2019, and wow, We work on such a deep healing level. We do a lot of the kind of like whole consensus of it is doing deep healing around your feminine to give you profound results, including falling pregnant and healing your cycle, if that's what you need. The beautiful thing is that Queen Alchemy is for every woman. There is something in it for everyone. It is so like, it's so deep, but it's also so broad, which I'm so proud of. And if you look at the testimonials, they truly speak for themselves. Endo gone after years of seeking help, women falling pregnant after years of no pregnancy, like you name it, it's literally written in a testimonial. And what I will say is that for some of these women that did Queen Alchemy, this was their last resort. I mean, I've had women that have done Queen Alchemy where they've gone to therapy for 10 years to try and get rid of suicidal thoughts. They do Queen Alchemy and they're finally not suicidal. Or they've tried more doctors than they could possibly count. And guess what? The energetic work finally worked. Well, not finally worked. The energetic worked. Finally, they're pregnant, right? Or finally, their period has come back or whatever it is. The domino effect of the work that I guide you through means that whilst you might be working on a daddy wound, for example, your period issues disappear because you no longer feel abandoned from him. Or by creating self trust again, you now can fall pregnant because your body feels safe. So there is a mini trauma call for period issues and healing miscarriages. And then for those of you that have been struggling to fall pregnant and you've tried all the physical things, cutting out gluten, cutting out dairy, eating chicken liver, like blah, 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 cutting out endocrine disruptors, then I recommend booking in a one-on-one call with me so that we can do customized healing for the best results to ensure that your body is really, really clear of what's blocking you specifically from that beautiful baby coming in. So if you are wanting to join Queen Alchemy for period issues, depending on the period issues, it will probably be dealt with in Queen Alchemy and then the mini trauma call. And if you would like to, for pregnancy stuff, you can then, for falling pregnant, you can then book in an extra one-on-one with me. But like I said before, the domino effect means that I've had plenty of women do Queen Alchemy without a one-on-one call, and they've fallen pregnant because of that domino effect. For those of you that maybe are listening to this podcast months after the release date, just an FYI that for round 14, which is happening earlier this year, earlier in the year than normal because of our wedding, I will have a very limited amount of one-on-ones available for purchase with Queen Alchemy. So it's very much first in, best dressed. There is a chance that if you try to join late and you need a one-on-one based on your case, so if there's like a lot of trauma, for example, and I know that you need that time with me to get the most out of Queen Alchemy, I may have to ask you to wait till 2025, which I obviously don't want to have to do. So please, please, please do not forget this. If you are thinking about doing the second round this year in 2024, my God, not the first round. But if you're doing the first round and you haven't yet filled in your form, please make sure that you do so you don't miss out on a space, as I do have limited availability on how many of you I take in each round of Queen Alchemy. Okay, so ladies and gents, to wrap up this episode, I haven't quite finished. I've got a last little nugget to give you. We are well into 2024, which is so exciting. And the energy of this year feels like a quantum leap for me. So I'm sending that energy onto you as well. If you haven't gotten my 2024 free mantra guide and vision board templates, we'll put the links below so that you can go and grab those for free. And I want to wrap this episode up with a bit of a nugget for you guys to set your day up with some good vibes. And I thought of this before and I was like, you know what? This could be a really nice thing to just like bring into every episode that I remember, let's just say, for this year, to have every episode kind of wrap up with a little nugget. So the nugget for today: the only reason that you are waiting is because your ego or your fear is holding you back. As humans, we naturally are very risk adverse, right? So especially if you think things through a lot, your brain is more likely to tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't do something and add more weight to those points than why you should do something. But when you stay small and when you avoid taking those risks, you also avoid success. Those people that are successful and have their dream life, they had to choose it. They had to choose it over and over again, even when it was hard, even when it was scary. Your heart has a vibrational frequency 5,000 times greater than your brain. So if your heart is calling you towards something, trust it. You wouldn't desire it if it wasn't meant for you. Seriously. Think about that. You keep thinking about doing the thing because it's meant for you. If it wasn't meant for you, you wouldn't be mulling over it day after day. So let's wrap this episode up here. I hope that you guys have a lovely rest of your week. I will see those of you that are clients of mine or that are joining Queen Alchemy, and I will catch you in next week's juicy episode.